Welcome back to the Ed Show. Breaking news tonight in the Trayvon Martin case. ABC News has obtained video of George Zimmerman being taken into the police department after he was detained by Sanford police. Joining me by phone is Walter Zelisko, president and CEO of Global Investigative Group and a retired police chief. Mr. Zelisko, thank you for your time tonight. You're on the phone with us and you're looking at the videotape. From what you can see, how does this videotape square with the initial police report that was filed and released on Monday?
All right. Well, first of all, good evening. I'm looking at this videotape, and it clearly isn't consistent with what the police report reflects. I mean, the police report does state that they observe wetness on the back of his jacket and grass stains. Well, we can't really see if there's any wetness on the back of that jacket. There clearly could be. But what we can observe is that there are no signs of any serious injuries. You do see a police officer looking at the back of his head at some point in this video, so to indicate there may be a small abrasion. All right. There's no blood coming from his face or his nose area. I don't observe any blood splatter on his shirt or jackets. That's not to say that there's maybe a drop or two, but you don't have the quantity of blood to reflect a serious injury. Now, you got to remember that he's claiming self-defense. So there are three important facts that really have to be proven in any self-defense claim is that, one, that the danger or threat was imminent, and then, two, that they reasonably believed that he would be harmed, and that he reasonably responded to that danger. You know, if the guy scratches his head when he falls on the ground, does that to die? Does he really believe that?
I want to look at this videotape again. That officer on the left of Zimmerman right there opened up his jacket to see if there was anything in there, or it's almost as if he hadn't done it before. If we can roll the videotape back, I think that is more than interesting. That here he is, we're isolating, you can see his head. It doesn't appear to be any kind of damage to his head, and clearly his head isn't bleeding. But of course, this is after. But here's the videotape. Interesting. The police officer goes to him face to face right here, and now he's going to put his right hand on his chest and open up his shirt, open up his jacket. What do you, as if he's searching it for the first time, what do you make of that, Mr. Zelisko? Well,
obviously, I hope that the police conducted a search at the scene to see if he possibly may have any more weapons on him. But the problem I have with this search here is that the officer is handling that jacket, and if they're placing that jacket into evidence for any possible DNA evidence that they could find, he's contaminating that whole jacket. You know, by moving his hands inside and out and about that jacket.
Well, I want to see the videotape again, because it looks to me like the police officer is putting his hands in the pockets of George Zimmerman to see if he's got anything in his pockets. And then, I mean, wouldn't he have done that on the scene?
Well, you would think so, you know, but maybe this is another officer transporting. You know, I don't know if this is the same officer who initially responded. You know, when the officers arrive at the scene, they can hand off the prisoner to another officer to do the transport to headquarters.
Okay.
So this officer could be just, you know, covering himself to make sure he doesn't have any objects that could be used as a weapon. All
right, he's checking his pockets right there. He's going on the inside. Now he goes around on the back and he touches the backside of Zimmerman, and then he seems to wipe his hands on his own pants right there. Do you see that?
Yeah. Well, that would indicate that it's probably wet. That the back of the jacket has some moisture on it.
How troubling is this videotape, Mr. Zelisko?
Well, it's troubling in the fact that Mr. Zimmerman doesn't reflect the injuries, that would be consistent with somebody who's just fearing for his life and had to, kill somebody to defend himself. I mean, this looks like, I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't look consistent.
Now, I said earlier on this broadcast that I've never seen anybody taken into a police house, a police station, after shooting somebody. Is this normal? I mean, does this look like they know the guy, or is this standard operating procedure here?
Well, I think, most of the police officers probably do know Mr. Zimmerman for the simple fact that, he was the so-called patrol captain of Neighborhood Watch, and, he's had, over 140 phone calls to the police. So you do form some type of a relationship. And being that he was a cop buff, there's no doubt that, he would be associating with some of these guys.
Yeah.
But the way they're bringing him in, that's normal procedure. There's nothing unusual about that.
Is it normal procedure for the police officers not to have gloves on and to be going? You said that he may have contaminated that jacket.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They should have had the plastic gloves on if they're going to do any search. Even if they're searching for a weapon, any smart officer would realize that they're going to be taking this jacket in as evidence. And they just contaminated it by placing their hands all over it, possibly smearing something.
So you say that this videotape is not consistent with the police report and the injuries that were reported. I want to bring back New York Times columnist Charles Blow and also Daryl Parks, an attorney for the family of Trayvon Martin. Mr. Parks, now that you have heard Walter Zalesko's opinion of this, how do you feel about what you've just heard and consumed this video?
Well, one point he made about the officer touched his back and then touched his pants. It looks to me, though, once we see the back of Mr. Zimmerman as he's walking away, it doesn't look wet to me. So why he may have touched his pants could be any reason, but it doesn't look like his back is wet to me. I also want to point out, though, that as he was getting out of the car, he really didn't appear to be a guy who'd had injuries and been beaten down just recently. He seemed to get out and not be in any distress. So I strongly question whether or not Mr. Zimmerman really suffered the injuries that he says he did.
I'm curious as to what time this is taking place as opposed to the time of the shooting. Mr. Blow?
Right. The thing that strikes me most is what the officer was talking about earlier, which is noses bleed. Noses bleed even if you don't break them. Noses bleed if you just get hit hard enough in your nose. If you get hit hard enough in the nose that it bleeds, and Zimmerman has on a light-colored shirt, one would think that you would see some evidence of some blood somewhere on that shirt. Also, the shirt's tucked in. Does not seem like a person who's just been in a fight. There are little bits of evidence here that you look at and you think someone needs to explain how all these things can be and the police report still be true.
And Mr. Parks, I want to ask you, what do you make of Walter Zalesko, who is a former police chief and a private investigator now, saying that the videotape does not stay consistent with the report?
Well, I think he's totally right. I think it's inconsistent, and that certainly we're now seeing more video evidence to support the fact that the report by this department was incorrect. Yeah. And so it creates even more questions, more doubt in the investigation in the Sanford Police Department, and just really screams that this a special prosecutor really has to go step by step and make sure that we uncover all the evidence in this case, because clearly it's not in favor of George Zimmerman.
Daryl Parks, Charles Blow, and Walter Zalesko, thank you for your time tonight. Coming up, Reverend Jesse Jackson will join me next to respond to tonight's developments. Stay with us.